Brian Hooker told investigators a story about where he was on the night of April 4th. The GPS on his phone told a different story, not a slightly different story, not a story with small discrepancies that could be explained by memory failure or the fog of a traumatic night. A story that, according to a U.S. official familiar with the investigation, caused investigators to search in the wrong area of the Sea of Abaco while they were looking for Lynette. The wrong area. For weeks, the initial search for Lynette Hooker was conducted in the area that Brian's account pointed toward, the area where he said she went into the water, the area where he said the currents carried her, and the GPS data from Brian's own phone, from the marine navigation app he was using that night, shows that his device was somewhere else. Moving on the water, stopping in the Sea of Abaco, and then returning. The device moved. It stopped. It returned. That is not consistent with an account of someone who paddled helplessly for 8 hours, without power and 25-mile-per-hour winds, unable to control his direction, arriving at Marsh Harbor at 4 a.m. after his wife fell overboard and disappeared into the dark. It is consistent with someone who knew where they were going and went there. This is forensic disconnect. And today we are covering the most significant forensic development in the Lynette Hooker investigation since the Apple Watch was found on the boat that Brian says he never reached. GPS data from Brian Hooker's own phone, derived from the marine navigation app he was using on the night of April 4th, contradicts the account he gave to investigators. The U.S. Coast Guard has confirmed it. CBS News has confirmed it. The Coast Guard is now requesting permission from Bahamian authorities to send divers to research the Sea of Abaco, in the area the GPS data actually points to, not the area Brian's account pointed to. They were searching in the wrong place, because Brian told them the wrong place. Before we go further, subscribe and hit the notification bell. This is one of the most significant developments in this case since it began. Subscribe. Let's start with what the GPS data actually shows, because the specific technical picture of what investigators have recovered from Brian Hooker's phone is more detailed and more damning than any headline has fully captured. Brian Hooker was using a marine navigation app on his phone on the night of April 4th. This is not unusual. Marine navigation apps, applications like Navionics, iNavX, Garmin Active Captain, or similar platforms, are standard tools for recreational sailors. They display nautical charts, track the user's position using the phone's GPS, and often allow users to record tracks, the path of the device's movement over time. The GPS data on Brian's phone recorded a track, a continuous log of where his device was, second by second, from when the app was active to when it was not. That track shows the device moving across the surface of the water, not stationary at a marina, not drifting in a consistent direction as an unpowered boat would drift in 25-mile-per-hour winds, but moving, purposefully, stopping at a specific location in the Sea of Abaco, and then returning. A U.S. official told Fox News Digital that the Hooker's dinghy allegedly visited the same area, the area where the GPS track shows the device stopping, not a random location in the Sea of Abaco. A specific location, a place where the device stopped before returning. That stop, that specific location in the Sea of Abaco, where Brian's phone GPS shows his device pausing before returning. That is the area where the Coast Guard's dive team is going to search, with 25-foot depth waters, with divers, looking for Lynette Hooker's body. Now, let's hold this GPS data against every element of Brian's account that has been questioned since the beginning. Brian told investigators he and Lynette left the Abaco Inn at approximately 7:30 p.m. Bar footage shows them leaving at 6:40 p.m., 50-minute discrepancy. Brian told investigators Lynette was wearing the kill switch, the engine's safety lanyard, when she fell overboard, cutting the engine. The kill switch is worn by the driver. Brian was the driver. Brian told investigators he last saw Lynette swimming toward shore after she fell in. He threw a flotation device. He paddled. He arrived at Marsh Harbor at approximately 4 a.m. The Apple Watch was found on the Soulmate, the boat Brian says he never reached. The FLIR thermal camera, a $33,000 infrared system capable of detecting a human body in dark water, was on the Soulmate, not used. The Coast Guard didn't know it existed until a friend called them in May. And now the GPS data shows Brian's device moving to a specific location in the Sea of Abaco, stopping there, and returning. In a pattern that does not match the account of a man who was paddling helplessly in rough conditions, unable to control his direction, for 8.5 hours. Each of these discrepancies was individually explainable. The departure time could be a memory error. The kill switch could be an unusual but not impossible arrangement. The Apple Watch could theoretically have been left behind earlier. The FLIR camera not being used could be explained by not reaching the soulmate. The GPS track is different. The GPS track is not a memory. It is not a statement. It is not something that can be misremembered or explained by the fog of a traumatic night. It is the machine record of where Brian Hooker's device was on the night of April 4th, 2026. And it does not match what he told investigators, not approximately, not in ways that require careful interpretation. It caused investigators to search in the wrong area. The official said it directly. The initial search was conducted in the area that Brian's account pointed toward, and the GPS data shows that is not where his device was. Now let's talk about what the Coast Guard's decision to reopen the search means operationally. Because the decision to send divers to a specific new area of the Sea of Abaco is not a routine investigative follow-up. It is a forensically significant commitment of significant resources based on specific evidence. A Coast Guard dive operation in the Bahamas requires coordination with Bahamian authorities. The Coast Guard is asking for permission, which means the Bahamian government must authorize the operation. It requires the deployment of specialized dive teams. It requires the identification of a specific search area, which in this case is being drawn from the GPS track, from the specific location in the Sea of Abaco, where Brian's device stopped before returning. The Coast Guard does not deploy dive teams to search 25-foot depth waters in foreign territorial jurisdiction based on speculation. They do it based on specific verified forensic evidence that points to a specific location. The GPS data has been verified. The track has been analyzed. The specific location where Brian's device stopped has been identified, and the Coast Guard believes that location is where Lynette's body is. That belief, based on specific forensic evidence expressed through the commitment of a dive team authorized for foreign territorial operations, is the most direct official statement about where Lynette is that anyone has made since April 4th. She is in the Sea of Abaco, in the area where Brian's GPS shows his device stopped, in waters reaching 25 feet in depth. Brian's account put the search somewhere else. The GPS data puts Lynette somewhere else. And the Coast Guard is going where the GPS points. Now let's examine what the GPS data means for the specific question that has been at the center of this investigation since the beginning. Did Brian Hooker's account of what happened on the night of April 4th accurately describe what happened? The GPS track answers this question directly. No. The account he gave to investigators, the account that pointed the initial search to the wrong area, does not match the movement record of his own device. His phone was somewhere on the night of April 4th that his account did not describe. It moved to a specific location. It stopped. It returned. Whatever happened at that specific location, the place in the Sea of Abaco where Brian's device stopped before returning, is what the dive team is going to find. Or try to find. The waters are 25 feet deep. In a body of water with currents and tidal movement over 56 days, the specific location of remains may have shifted from where the GPS track stops. But the GPS data gives investigators a starting point, the most specific, most forensically grounded starting point that has existed in this investigation. The official said the GPS data caused investigators to search in the wrong area. The Coast Guard is now going to search the right area, based on Brian Hooker's own phone. Now let's talk about the marine navigation app specifically. Because the specific type of digital evidence that the GPS data represents is important for understanding both its evidentiary value and the specific challenge of using it in a potential prosecution. Marine navigation apps on smartphones use the phone's built-in GPS receiver to track the user's position. The GPS receiver communicates with satellites to determine the phone's location with typical accuracy of 3 to 5 meters under good conditions. The app records this positional data at regular intervals, typically every second or every few seconds, and stores the resulting track on the device and, in many cases, in the cloud infrastructure associated with the app. The cloud storage of marine navigation data is particularly significant in this case. Like the FLIR thermal camera's cloud memory system, a marine navigation app that stores track data in the cloud maintains a record that exists independently of the physical device. If Brian deleted the track data from his phone, if he attempted to remove the GPS record of where his device was on the night of April 4th, the cloud-stored version of that data may still exist on the app provider's servers. Whether the GPS data that investigators obtained came from the physical phone, from the cloud backup, or from a combination of both has not been publicly specified. What has been confirmed is that the data exists, that it has been analyzed, that it shows Brian's device in a location inconsistent with his account, and that it is specific enough to point investigators to a new search area with enough confidence to justify a dive operation. The GPS track is not just investigative intelligence, it is potential evidence. In a prosecution, the GPS data from Brian's phone, authenticated by the app provider, corroborated by the cloud backup if it exists, analyzed by a digital forensics expert who can testify to the specific movements recorded, becomes the objective record of Brian Hooker's movements on the night of April 4th. Not his account, not his memory. The machine record of where he was. That record shows he went somewhere he has not described, stopped there, and came back. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. He has not been arrested by U.S. authorities. His attorney, Terrell Butler, has consistently denied any wrongdoing on Brian's behalf. Brian has said publicly, "I've never harmed Lynette, and I would never harm Lynette. And I want to find Lynette." The GPS on his phone shows where his device went on the night she disappeared. The dive team is going there. Now let me also address the specific significance of the soulmate being moved from Fort Pierce to Fort Lauderdale. Because this detail, mentioned in the Fox News digital report, is itself informative about the state of the forensic examination of the boat. The soulmate was moved because authorities did not have the capability to pull it from the water in Fort Pierce. Moving a vessel for forensic examination requires facilities capable of handling the specific dimensions and weight of the boat. Fort Lauderdale has the infrastructure. The move to Fort Lauderdale was not a routine transfer. It was a decision made because the examination of the soulmate requires specific capabilities that necessitated moving it. This tells you something about the depth and specificity of the forensic examination being conducted. The Coast Guard is not conducting a cursory walkthrough of the vessel. They are conducting the kind of examination that requires pulling a 40-something foot sailboat out of the water and examining it in a facility with the capacity to do so. Hull inspection, below waterline examination, the areas of the vessel that are only accessible when the boat is out of the water. The GPS data points to a specific location in the Sea of Abaco, where Brian's device stopped. The soulmate has been moved to Fort Lauderdale for a more thorough examination. The FLIR cloud data is being sought. The Apple Watch was found on the boat, and a dive team is being prepared to go to the Bahamas. Every thread of this investigation is moving simultaneously. And the GPS track, the machine record of where Brian Hooker's own phone went on the night Lynette disappeared, is the thread that has most directly challenged the account that has been the investigative foundation since April 4th. She is in the Sea of Abaco, in the area where his device stopped, in 25-foot deep waters. The dive team is going to find out. Lynette Hooker is 55 years old, from Michigan. She built a life on the water with a man she had been married to for 25 years. She called the ocean her happy place. She documented everything: the manatees, the sea turtles, the sunsets, the narrow channels between the islands. The GPS on her husband's phone shows where he went on the night she disappeared. The Coast Guard is going there. Let me go deeper into the specific forensic science of GPS evidence and what it means in a criminal investigation context. Because GPS data from a phone is not simply a record of where someone was. It is a multi-layered forensic artifact that contains information about the device's movements, the conditions under which those movements occurred, and the specific technical characteristics that allow investigators to authenticate the data and resist defense challenges. A marine navigation app uses the phone's GPS receiver to record position data. But the GPS receiver is not the only sensor that contributes to the positional record. Modern smartphones also use cell tower triangulation, Wi-Fi positioning, and barometric pressure sensors to supplement the GPS signal. In conditions where the GPS signal is degraded, By cloud cover, by interference, by the phone being inside a structure, the other sensors provide backup positioning data that maintains the accuracy of the track record. On the water at night in the Bahamas, with clear skies and no overhead obstructions, the GPS signal would be strong. The track data would be accurate to within a few meters, and the specific movement pattern, moving purposefully, stopping at a specific location, returning, would be distinguishable from the drift pattern of an unpowered boat in 25-mile-per-hour winds with high confidence. An unpowered boat drifting in 25-mile-per-hour winds does not stop. It does not reverse course and return to its starting point. It drifts in a direction determined by the wind and the current, at a speed determined by those forces, until it reaches a shoreline or a calm area or is retrieved. The specific movement pattern that the GPS data reportedly shows, stopping at a specific location then returning, is not the movement pattern of a drift scenario. It is the movement pattern of a boat under intentional control. This distinction between intentional movement and drift is the specific forensic point that the GPS data establishes. Brian Hooker told investigators his engine cut out when Lynette fell overboard. He said he was at the mercy of the wind and the currents. He paddled. He arrived at Marsh Harbor at 4 a.m. after 8.5 hours. An unpowered boat does not stop in the middle of the Sea of Abaco and then return to a prior position. Physics does not allow it. Wind and current do not produce that movement pattern. The GPS track showing a stop and return is the machine record of a boat under power or a phone being carried by someone who is moving purposefully to a specific location, stopping there, and then leaving. Whatever happened at that specific location, the stop point in the Sea of Abaco, happened because Brian's device went there intentionally. Now let me talk about what the phrase wrong area means in operational terms. Because the U.S. official's statement that Brian's account caused investigators to search in the wrong area of the Sea of Abaco while looking for Lynette is one of the most consequential official statements made about this investigation. Search and rescue operations in open water are resource-intensive and time-sensitive. The initial search for Lynette Hooker, conducted by the Royal Bahamas Police Force and Coast Guard in the days following April 4th, was based on the information that Brian provided to investigators. The area where he said she went in, the direction she was last seen swimming, the general region where the current would carry a person in the conditions that night. That search found nothing. No body, no clothing, no floating debris consistent with the reported disappearance. The initial search area was searched and produced no results. Now investigators know why. The initial search area was wrong because Brian's account was wrong. His phone was somewhere else. His device stopped somewhere else. And wherever it stopped is the area the Coast Guard is now preparing to search with divers. The specific implication of this is significant. If Lynette's remains are found in the area that the GPS data points to, the area where Brian's device stopped, that discovery will confirm that Brian was at or near that location on the night of April 4th, that the stop was not accidental or random, that whatever happened there was connected to whatever happened to Lynette. And if the remains are found in that location, the combination of the GPS track and the location of the remains will tell a specific story, not an account that requires interpretation. A factual record of where Brian's device went on the night his wife disappeared and where her body ended up being found. That combination, GPS track plus remains location, is the kind of forensic convergence that builds prosecutions. Now let's address the specific detail about the Bahamas authorization. Because the Coast Guard is requesting permission from Bahamian authorities to conduct the dive operation, and the specific nature of that authorization request tells you something about where the international legal jurisdiction of this case stands. The disappearance occurred in Bahamian waters. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has jurisdiction over the crime as it occurred. The Bahamian government's authorization is required for any foreign law enforcement operation in Bahamian territorial waters. The Coast Guard asking for permission is not a formality. It is an acknowledgement of Bahamian sovereignty and an expression of the cooperation between U.S. and Bahamian authorities that has characterized this investigation. The Bahamas has been cooperative. The Royal Bahamas Police Force arrested Brian Hooker in April, detaining him under Bahamian law's 5-day limit before releasing him without charges, but confirming him as a suspect. The Bahamian police commissioner said publicly that he remains a suspect in an active investigation. The cooperation between the RBPF and the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service has been ongoing. The authorization request is a process. It will be granted or it will not be. Given the Bahamas' prior cooperation in this investigation, the expectation of the U.S. officials pursuing this is that the authorization will come. And when it does, the dive team goes in. The specific area, 25-foot depths, the location where Brian's GPS stopped, and whatever is there waiting to be found. Now let me talk about what the cumulative evidence picture of this case looks like from the outside. Because the GPS data is not the first piece of evidence that challenges Brian Hooker's account, it is the fifth. And the combination of 5 specific, documented, objective pieces of evidence that collectively challenge the same account is what produces the specific investigative picture that is now driving a federal criminal investigation, a Coast Guard dive operation, and the seizure and examination of a vessel in Fort Lauderdale. The departure time discrepancy. Bar footage shows 6:40 p.m. Brian told police 7:30 p.m. The camera is objective. The 50-minute gap is not a memory error of the kind that might affect a traumatized person. It is a specific difference between what was recorded and what was told. The Apple Watch. Lynette's watch was on her wrist at the Abaco Inn. The watch was found on the Soulmate, the boat Brian says he never reached. The watch traveled from her wrist to the boat through a mechanism that Brian's account does not explain. The kill switch. The kill switch is worn by the driver. Brian drove. Brian told investigators Lynette, the passenger, was wearing it when she fell, cutting the engine. The element of his account that explains the loss of power relies on the kill switch being in an unusual location. The FLIR camera. A $33,000 thermal camera capable of detecting a person in dark water was on the Soulmate. Not used. The Coast Guard didn't know about it until a friend called in May. The cloud data is being sought. The GPS track. Brian's marine navigation app recorded his device's movements on the night of April 4th. The device moved to a specific location in the Sea of Abaco, stopped there, returned. This movement pattern does not match the account of an unpowered boat drifting in rough conditions. 5 pieces of evidence, all objective, all documented, all challenging the same account from different angles. The departure time from a bar camera, the Apple Watch from the boat's evidence collection, the kill switch from the police report, the FLIR from the device's serial number and cloud account, the GPS from the phone's navigation app. 5 pieces of evidence that Brian Hooker's account does not explain, does not account for, and in at least 2 cases, the Apple Watch and the GPS, directly contradicts. He has denied all wrongdoing. His attorney has denied it. He has said he would never harm Lynette and wants to find her. He told NBC News, "I've never harmed Lynette, and I would never harm Lynette, and I want to find Lynette." The GPS on his phone shows where his device went on the night she disappeared. It went to a specific location, stopped, returned. The dive team is going to that location. Whatever is there has been there since April 4th, in 25-foot deep water, in the Sea of Abaco, in the area where Brian's own device stopped. Lynette Hooker, 55 years old, from Michigan. She called the ocean her happy place. The GPS said where he went. The dive team is going there. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lynette Hooker, contact the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service through their tip app. If you were on the mystery sailboat anchored in Aunt Pat's Bay near Elbow Cay on the night of April 4th, contact investigators immediately. You may have seen something that matters. Hit the like button. Subscribe to Forensic Disconnect. Drop a comment. Does the GPS data change everything for you? What do you think the dive team is going to find? We read every single comment. The GPS said where he went. The dive team is going there. We will be back tomorrow.